Check of your top stories. Another person now facing charges. This is connected to the largest pandemic fraud case in U.S. history.
The fallout continues from the Feeding Our Future scheme. In a new affidavit, the FBI says a woman used an email account to carry out wire fraud and submit fake business records. Now, more than 40 people, including the program's founder, Amy Bach, have already pleaded guilty or been convicted in this case. They said they were using federal dollars to give meals to thousands of kids during the pandemic, but instead pocketed the cash.
Back then, it was just 40 people. Now, the number of those involved in the scandal has jumped to over 70. This is the same case where someone was offered more than $100,000 just to deliver a not guilty verdict. And the craziest part? They had the money. They were out here buying the jury, literally sending cash to jurors in exchange for that not guilty decision. And guess what? They got caught red-handed.
Us this morning with the details of this new charging document. And Barrett, this case we know has been full of twists and turns since the start, but turns out apparently they're still investigating.
Yeah, they sure are. This is the latest charge. It comes nearly 2 years after the Department of Justice first unveiled its investigation, showing that the $250 million fraud scheme is far from over. Authorities arrested and charged Hibo Dar. A 23-page affidavit claims she used a Gmail account to carry out wire fraud and submitting false business records to Feeding Our Future. They also found evidence of outlandish numbers on invoices. So according to court documents, Dar's food site, Northside...
Look at this. They were claiming on their paperwork we were given 52,000...
Just look at this on paper. They were claiming they served 52,000 meals to children in 1 month. Then it jumped to 40,000 meals a week. They even said they provided 3,000 gallons of milk. But the truth... they didn't even spend $2,000 on feeding those kids. That's beyond insane. Northside Wellness submitted invoices claiming these numbers, but it was all smoke and mirrors, total fabrication. At New Vision Foundation, we saw the same suspicious claims, but so far, no formal charges have come from the recent raid in St. Paul. According to court documents, they were claiming to serve thousands of meals every day across locations like St. Paul and Waite Park. Since this 2-year investigation began, 44 people have either pleaded guilty or been convicted, including the Feeding Our Future founder herself, Amy Bach, whose appeal is still in motion. The FBI even said Dar was a flight risk, and we'll break that down in just a bit. But back to the bigger picture. This scandal is exploding. So where does Ilhan Omar fit in? That's where it gets messier. See, there was a restaurant being used as a food distribution site, and both the restaurant and its manager are under serious heat. Even the building owner is catching fire now. Fraud just took a bold leap forward today. We've got fresh details about how the U.S. Attorney's Office is building their case for the Feeding Our Future trial. Prosecutors are trying to show that companies took federal funds meant to feed children during the pandemic and used them for luxury trips, fancy cars, and real estate. The scandal is drawing national attention, especially with powerful political ties tangled in. This trial is basically the main event. Defendants include a former aide to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and the former owners of Safari Restaurant, who were once seen as successful Somali businessmen. That's key, because Safari is about to take center stage in this story. Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future director, is right in the thick of it. The old Safari building on Lake Street might be painted over now, but its past is loud. At the peak of the pandemic, Safari claimed they served more than 3.9 million meals in just 19 months. And they even featured Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in a promo video trying to make their operation look legit. No kidding, they literally used her platform to boost credibility. Prosecutors say Amy Bach personally helped Salem, said Abdulkadir. Nursala set up Safari as a meal site, claiming to dish out 5,000 meals a day. Every single day, raking in $16 million. That's right, $16 million in federal nutrition funds, just in 2020 and 2021. Even when the Minnesota Department of Education told them restaurants could no longer act as meal sites, they kept the hustle going. Contemporary Somali cuisine, they called it. Prosecutors say these same people opened fake food sites in cities like Wilmer, pretending to be official distributors. And it gets worse. New court filings show the government wants to introduce evidence that Abdulkadir Salah has gang affiliations, lied on immigration forms, and dodged taxes on all that alleged fraud money. His attorney says the gang link is bogus and the rest has nothing to do with the case. But the trial brief tells a very different story, and it's all about to come out in court. Abdi Nirsela, brother of the safari owner and a former aide to Mayor Jacob Frey, quote, used his political influence to lobby officials to pressure MDE not to shut down Feeding Our Future or any of its sites. Why? So he and his co-conspirators could keep the fraud machine running. After the accusations surfaced, Mayor Frey cut ties and fired him. His lawyer? No comment. Meanwhile, prosecutors claim Amy Bach kept this entire fraud network alive by any means necessary. They say she personally received kickbacks from other defendants. One example, she allegedly pretended to sell a child care center to the safari owners. It was all part of a money trail. Now, the defendants are all due in court this Thursday for the final pretrial hearing. And wow, talk about things aging badly. Remember when Ilhan Omar was front and center, promoting that restaurant, showing off plates of food like they were saving the world? It's wild. Look at all that food. All those happy kids, they said. All that good old Somali cuisine being handed out with love. But I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't even step inside that building. Nope, I'd rather overdraft my card at McDonald's. Free food. Nah, I'm good. Looked like it had flies on it. And where were the kids? Seriously, where were they? Were there even kids in the back? Or was it all just for show? And then it hits you. What the hell is really going on in Minnesota? Why is this all so concentrated there? When and how did it get to this point? And why is nobody doing anything about it? But here's the thing. This isn't even the only scandal tied to Ilhan Omar. Her husband is allegedly involved in a completely different fraud case. Yeah, I'm about to pull that up too, because it's all connected. She always seems to be standing right next to the chaos, yet somehow never takes the fall. She's close to the fire, but never gets burned. That's the real mystery. Oh, wait, pause that real quick, because now even her husband is being accused of fraud. Yeah? A business he partly owns is under investigation for sketchy financial activity. So now, Omar and Don Samuel's race just got even messier. And let's be real, when you're using your platform to spotlight a now exposed fraud operation, people start asking questions. Because someone was definitely passing around money. Someone got a wad of cash and said, "Thanks for the help." And suddenly, millions are flowing into pockets, into accounts. And all on the backs of poor families who couldn't even afford to feed their own kids. Sickening. And yet, nobody says a word. Nobody dares to hold her accountable. Meanwhile, the media is quiet, and the money is still flowing. She's on husband number 3 now. And remember the rumor about her marrying her own brother. People joked, wait, is this her brother? Or her dad? Or just a random guy with money? Because the fraud keeps stacking up. And guess what? Even her current husband is tangled up in accusations too. Classic So, her husband. Yeah, that's Tim Minet and the reporter. It's Corin Hogard finally makes sense. But here's the real kicker. Tim's consulting firm legally raked in nearly $3 million from Ilhan Omar's 2020 campaign. That's right, $3 million straight. From campaign funds, and now he's reportedly involved in business ventures that are currently facing lawsuits. Lawsuits that claim money mysteriously disappeared. Don Samuels, her opponent, wasted no time calling it out. He's leaning hard on the reports of financial fraud tied to Omar's husband. And yeah, people used to say it was her brother she married. But now looking at this guy, folks are like, wait, this dude? Is that her dad? Her sugar daddy? The jokes practically write themselves. But the receipts? His answer when public money is involved. A decade ago, the FBI looked into whether Samuels misused his city council seat to funnel money to his wife's nonprofit. He says that probe was political, meant to take him down during a mayoral run. Sure, just a hoax, right? Now let's go back to Minet. His LinkedIn shows he co-founded the E Street Group with Will Haler. No official criminal investigation has surfaced yet, but according to sources, law enforcement is quietly looking into it. A South Dakota cannabis CEO claims his company gave E Street Group $3.5 million to invest. What did he get back? Just $1.8 million. And a court judgment for the other $1.7 million. Omar's office says she has zero connection to any of these business dealings, and they're calling it political desperation. But the cannabis exec says otherwise. The paperwork speaks for itself, and he's not wrong. You're telling me one spouse didn't know about $3.5 million coming in and $1.7 million disappearing? He asked. Sounds shady because it is shady. And look at Omar's appearance. She's rocking giant pearls, a designer-looking dress, and even jewelry on her hijab. Where's all that money coming from? The CEO says he never dealt with Omar or even spoke to Minet directly. But he's not buying that they were totally unaware of what was going on behind the scenes. You run a two-person company, and one of them is a sitting congresswoman's husband. You're telling me she knew nothing? Meanwhile, Minet and Haler's lawyers insist there was no intent to defraud anyone. But here's the twist. They're also tangled up in a winery deal that's now facing a separate civil lawsuit. So let's tally it up. Fraud allegations in a cannabis business, another one in a winery venture, and campaign money flowing like water. But Omar, she's still somehow the innocent one in all of this, right? She's always painted as just a sweet little congresswoman who knows nothing. She's not involved. Leave her alone, they say. But how many scandals do you have to stand next to before it stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like cover-up? And trust, this isn't even the last of it. There's more coming, and we're just getting started.